And are you refreshed? Good. Now what? Are you feeling some satisfaction with the conversation that we've been having? Realizing that just about everything that's important to you we've been talking about, yes? Yeah. So now we're just going to talk for fun? You really wanting us to believe that these things are all undone? Or just wanting to take them further just for fun? Can you feel how we are deliberately avoiding anything urgent? Because what's the point of writhing around in resistance? Because that's not how you get anywhere that you want to be, yes? You're following?
It has been a dream come true.
It's just the way it's supposed to be for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I really love you. So when I was 18 years old, I had kind of like near-death experience and really woke me up. And then I just got so many information that kind of, I got the pieces of truth, and now you make it a whole system. And it was so wonderful when I heard your words. I just, oh my God, that's what I figured out. I know that I want to feel good. I know that feeling good is important, but I don't know why, like, feeling good will make those things manifest, but you just did it all. But now I have a question. You don't believe me, like, I have so many friends, but I couldn't tell anything to them because I know no one understands me. And
yeah, because nobody wants to be happy. You really should keep that to yourself.
And I just feel like I tell my friend, I have to come here to see you because I feel like you're the only person who understands me. I mean, that is the truth, you know. And whenever I feel sad, my friends, when they feel sad, they all come here to ask me questions. They're like, I know you're gonna tell me how I'm gonna do it because you always give me the perfect answer. But whenever I feel something that I don't know the answer, I will always go to find your, like, DVD, books, things like that. I all turn to you, that I have no one to talk to. And it has always be my dream to sit in front of you. It has always been my dream. So the question is, after 19, when I was 19 years old, when I was looking back, I have nothing to feel happy about, but I figured out a way that I could feel happy. And I was really, really happy that I had nothing to happy about. And I have physical pain at that time.
So we're just going to interrupt just briefly. So you found unconditional happiness?
Yes.
There was nothing to feel happy about.
Yes.
But you found a way to feel happy.
Yes.
And then
now I feel so sad because all of the beautiful things manifest. I had the best 5 years.
So wait, so wait. So you look back and you had nothing to feel happy about.
Yeah.
But you managed to feel happy.
Yes.
And then you had the best 5 years. And
all the things manifest.
And now you feel so sad because?
Yeah, because I lost it. It's because all of things manifest. And then suddenly I was from China to New York. And I knew you in China at that time. Our government blocked something that, so I couldn't really get like information from you. But then I know you, and even at that time I knew you. And then something just brought me to New York. It's like magnificent. And I got everything I have ever wanted. And maybe, I don't know why, and little by little, I lost that unconditional love. And I tried so hard to find it back.
Do you think it's because you found yourself in an environment where you began to get focused on so many conditions?
Yeah, because they're so wonderful. That's the truth. It's like beautiful boys and amazing like places and so wonderful. And later I'm so fearful that I'm going to lose them.
So
Yeah.
Well, we started there today.
Yeah.
That when things that you really want,
Yeah.
this is important. This is a big piece for everybody. That when you don't have it, you're yearning for it, so you're blocking it.
Yeah.
And then somehow you manage to soothe yourself enough that through the crack of least resistance, and it's often for most of you a crack, you allow it to flow, and then you began using your rational mind to reason from a position of usually of undeservability that it's not going to last. In other words, it's because there was not yet a sustaining expectation of things to continue to work out well for you. In other words, your belief you must have had enough belief for it to sort of kind of happen.
Yeah.
Enough belief for it to happen for a little while, but not enough belief to really sustain it. And there's something sort of irrational about that because you would think that if it's happening, that it would give you more reason to expect it to happen. But that is the pitfall of the conditional love that so many of you are living. In other words, it's that if it could be here, it could be gone. Those conditions, you're using the conditions to work against yourself. It will not be until you find that place where you just know your rightness, your goodness, your blessedness, your deservability, that you will be able to sustain this energy stream that you so much want.
Can I give you
Yes.
an example?
Endless, yes.
For example, sometimes I try to figure out a way to think about. Like, for example, before I really want to be a professional dancer, but for some reason, when I was little, I couldn't. And then I got here in New York, I find so many amazing dancers, and now I'm kind of old compared with professional dancers. I'm like 25, and they're literally like a 16, like 16, and I see them that I hurt so much that I don't know how I'm gonna get it this lifetime. And you said maybe it's about feeling.
Now, isn't this interesting that she's 25 and already feeling shortage of youthfulness?
Yes.
Using a comparison of 16
Yeah.
in order to club herself over the head. And those who are slightly older, like Esther, want to kill you. What we're getting at, we get what you mean, because you're talking about in the world of dance and the way it goes, that it's like the athletes who still are at the prime of their life, who they're calling them the old man because he's in his 30s or something. And so, but the point that we want to make back to you is, do you see how humans can take even the best of conditions and use them against themselves?
Yes, yes.
And that's what's going on. In other words,
Yes.
by looking at something that to most feels so absurd and using it against yourself. So the question is, why do I do that? Why would I not be advocating for my benefit? Why would I not be emphasizing for my benefit? And the reason is because you are in a physical world where so many are making so many comparisons. You live in a very conditionally oriented world, and it isn't working out very well for any of you. And when you are masterful as you are, when you begin to catch the spirit of what your true potential is, you just can't do that in a conditional world. You have to break out of that. You have to massage your thoughts into a way that you feel the energy. In other words, you're in the same way that a sculptor learns to manage the clay, learns the material in which they are working, learns the best material to work with and under the conditions that the best material is moldable and pliable. You are learning to do that with energy. And that's what we've been talking about all day long here today. And the way you learn to mold the energy is by accepting the naturalness of your desires and then find a way to make your desire feel possible, to make your desire feel good. In other words, you cannot offer a statement such as, I am too old at 25, I have to be 16. So to live my dream in the way that I want to now is not possible. Do you feel the resistance that you are adding to that equation?
Yeah.
And so you just got to stop doing that. You've got to warm that up.
Yeah.
And it feels like when you have big dreams, when you have specialized dreams, that then it requires more focus, or then it is more difficult, but it is not. It is as easy to create a castle as a button. Esther just proved that to herself. It's as easy to create a castle as a button.
So now I've been trying a long time that I want to find that kind of unconditional love that I was having before, when I had nothing to be happy about. But it feels so hard.
So start there. So stop saying those words, first of all. But start there by saying, when I had nothing, I found it. And now I have so much more, I'm having a hard time finding it. So you've got to ask yourself, what is the difference? When you had nothing and you were reaching for everything, there was no resistance. But when you feel like you have everything that you are now going to lose, now there's resistance. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, and I feel guilty that I don't make full use of my resources that I have.
Well, guilty is the way you feel when you think a thought that your inner being doesn't think.
That's true.
Let's get this straight. Let's get this straight. Let's talk about what's really happening. Because when any of you say, I feel guilty, you mean when you say that, I should be doing something different.
Right.
The only thing that you should be doing different is thinking the way your inner being thinks about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Your inner being doesn't think you should be doing something different. Your inner being doesn't think that you should be making better use of resources. It's your beating up on yourself that's making you feel bad, not the fact that you're not utilizing your resources better. Is that clear? Do you understand? In other words, you're misunderstanding your guidance system. Your guidance is, it is saying one simple thing. That's not the way we see it. That's not the way we see it.
Yeah.
When you feel negative emotion, that's what we want. Those are the words we want you to hear. That's not the way we see it. When you say, I'm not good enough, it feels bad, that's not the way we see it.
Yeah.
When you say, I'm too old and you feel bad, that's not the way we see it.
Yeah.
When you say, I can't get there from here, and you feel bad, that's not the way we see it.
Yeah.
And that's all that bad feeling means. It means you are shooting yourself in the foot right now with this bogus thought that is not the way we see it.
That's
and the
true.
way we see it matters because we're standing over here in your
That's
vortex
true.
with all your stuff. We're
That's
over
true.
here where it all is. We know how to get it to you. We know the path of least resistance to get it to you.
That's
and
true.
that feeling is just your indication that you're right now got your shield up and you're not letting it in. End of story. That's all. It doesn't mean you should have done something different. It doesn't mean that there's some better thing that you should have been doing. It doesn't mean you missed your opportunity. It just means right now, in this moment, while this emotion feels bad, right now you're doing it. Right now. It wasn't that you got too old over a period of time. It wasn't that you missed the opportunity in some way. Right now you're doing it. Right now in this moment of emotion. Right now you're doing it. Right now.
Yeah.
You see, have you ever had friends who got dirt on you? Meaning they had you on something that you did that you shouldn't have done, and they never let you forget it. It just comes up over and over. You still owe me. Remember, you still owe me, they say. We're being playful. Maybe Esther watches too many movies, but it seems that that's the way it is in your environment a lot. And what we want you to understand is that the source within you isn't harboring anything about anything that you've ever done before. It's all real time. When you feel negative emotion, it's about what you're doing right now, right now, right now, right now, when you could do something different. That matters, don't you think? This negative emotion means I could make a better choice right now. So if you've got a lot of momentum on it, like you know how it is for the dancers, and you know how early in life they start, and you know how much they have to know, and you know what these benchmarks all are, we can see how you could be standing at a place outside of that structure and using the structure itself to beat yourself up.
Yeah.
But if you have decided that you're not facing reality, you're not writing a documentary on how people become dancers in China, it isn't about some statistical documentary. It's about something entirely different. It's about you feeling good, period. It's about you feeling good. Then you can stand right now and find some way to soothe yourself, to soothe yourself. You have to find a way to soothe yourself. So let's talk about some of these things that we've been talking about, and you show us that you can soothe yourself.
I have another question.
When you say, we want to hear it, when you say, I feel guilty about, go there, I feel guilty because I'm not making good use of resources. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I feel guilty. If you would, we would like you now. Do you feel guilty right now?
No.
Oh, then it won't work. You have to feel
because
guilty.
my dream just came true.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? How could that possibly be? How could that possibly be? Given your unworthiness and all.
But I feel like this was
and you
much
are
easier.
and you are old. You are old. You're old. Usually it's much younger people who we call to the chair.
Yeah, I could feel guilty now about some other things. You just depending on your purpose. Yeah. Like for example, I got here in New York and there's so many amazing things, but I didn't make full use of them. And sometimes I found you say follow your inspiration. Sometimes I relax myself and I get impulse, but I resist it. I didn't do it. I don't know why I didn't do it. Maybe I don't feel the...
Well, maybe you were doing something else, and maybe,
Yeah.
and maybe that part of spiking up the solution was in the process of spiking up the problem.
Okay.
In other words, the solutions that you are now wanting to experience for
Yes.
yourself were created by mixing it up. In other words, the problem is part of the solution.
Really? That's nice.
Isn't
because
it?
I don't feel like those pain is like, it's like I feel like it's for something. It's for a great solution. Maybe like one day I will...
Well, would you want to get out into a really good restaurant, and there's one right here in this hotel, but don't go because there'll be too many of you. Would you want to eat all of the food for the rest of your life today?
Not at all.
And so, do you want all of the insight to come today? Do you want all of the paths to unfold today? Or do you want just the path of least resistance? Do you just want enough pleasurable path to unfold that you keep yourself living happily ever after? That's the way you want it to be. Just enough today to keep yourself living happily ever after. Now you can orchestrate how fast you move. In other words, you have some control of those things. And we know, Esther said to someone the other day, I'm becoming a vibrational snob, she said, about herself, because she's used to the fast-moving energy. She's accustomed to things going well. She's accustomed to clarity. A little bit of confusion she doesn't like at all. She doesn't want things to slow down. She wants things to move fast. And she wants them to be efficient. And they most often are. But do you really want the same pace all the time? Or don't you want some ebb and flow in everything? Don't you want to go from contentment to enthusiasm? Do you really want to be in enthusiasm all the time? Don't you need contrast in order to define? And don't you need contrast in order to appreciate?
Yeah.
On the Canary Island cruise, a group of them, Esther and her family and staff, rented some four-wheeler contraptions, and on one of the Canary Islands, which was largely volcanic, it was really a desolate looking place, went off-road through washes and across this rough terrain with dust flying everywhere. They were having a very good time, but it was dusty and bumpy and dusty and bumpy and dusty and bumpy and loud. And then they came to a place, And they walked over to a cliff and saw, from Esther's point of view, the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. A pristine beach. Nobody goes there because it's desolate and dusty and bumpy. And dusty and bumpy and dusty and bumpy and far and dusty and bumpy and far to get there. But they were laughing and having such a good time, and they were playing music, and they were trying to introduce their driver to the music that they like, and he was sort of getting in the spirit of it, and then he began singing along and actually seemed like he knew the words, even though he couldn't possibly have known the words because he'd never heard the music before, and it was dusty and bumpy. And when they got there, the impact of the beauty of the place was huge. It was bigger for Esther than so many beautiful things she sees, because the contrast helped it to be focused in a different way. Do you sort of get what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Don't you enjoy your food when you're a little bit hungry? And don't you enjoy a really good conversation when you've been hanging around with dull people? In other words, don't you want the contrast in order to help you sharpen it? Don't you need the light and the dark in order to see it all? Don't you need contrast in order to even focus your eyes? Isn't contrast beneficial in all things? Don't you want to sort of give up the struggle and stop asking for perfection, because perfection smacks of endedness, and there's never going to be that for you? Don't you just want to be on this journey and just allow the source within you to flow? You see, this is the most important thing that anybody will ever say to you or to anyone. This matters so much. This is what you're reaching for. As you stand at this focal point where all of us and everyone, all who are your ancestors and all the dancers from before, all of the appreciators of life, everyone who's ever lived, and there are so many we can't even define that, are all focused with you in your moment, with such non-resistant love and adoration and appreciation for your willingness to be here, and for your perception of life, and for what you've put into your vortex, and from who you are. The love is so big and so strong and so steady that when you get crossways of it, you feel guilt. That's all. There's nothing to feel guilty about. It's just that guilt is how you feel when you don't let all that in a moment. Now, if you were someone who hadn't summoned it, you could be standing in some of those places and not feeling that at all. In other words, if you'd never wanted for anything, not having it wouldn't bother you at all. You've focused it into being. And the very guilt that you feel, this is the most important thing that we want you to hear. The guilt that you feel, the guilt that you feel, the guilt, that's good. The guilt that you feel is the indication. The guilt that you feel is the indication of the goodness and the perfection of where you stand. Because if it weren't like that, your deprivation of it wouldn't be there. You see what we're getting at? Even the fact that you can feel negative emotion. You couldn't feel negative emotion if that stream of pure positive energy was not flowing at you. So even my guilt is evidence of my goodness, is what we're saying to you. You get that? It's also evidence of your desire, evidence of your powerful desire. So
what should I do?
In normal terms, we would say, just lighten up, have more fun, be less efforting, because the very effort is your enemy. And that seems counterintuitive, because it seems like when you're learning to dance, when you're learning to do all of those things, that it takes effort and it takes focus. But effort without alignment doesn't yield you happiness.
Yeah.
It just yields you medals and accolades from other people. It doesn't yield you alignment. An alignment is what happiness is. This steady stream of realization is what you're reaching for. It's a steady stream of realizing who I am now, who I am now, who I am now, who I am now.
Sometimes I feel like when I I agree with all of you said.
I know you do.
Sometimes I feel like if I don't give effort, because before I was a very action-oriented person, and sometimes I just woke up and I don't feel like the motivation, well, no, inspiration to do anything. I just lie down on bed for a very long time, and then I feel worse. I feel like I'm wasting my life.
Well, sometimes action is inspired.
Yes.
So don't mistake action and effort. In other words,
That's true.
effort. By effort, we don't mean action, because nothing is more delicious than being tuned in and inspired to some action, because an action in non-resistance produces so much and it is pleasurable. But when effort, that means the energy isn't lined up right and you're trying to use the action to compensate for the energy and you never get there. That's what we mean by effort. That's why effort feels like struggle and strain. Action doesn't have to feel like struggle or strain. In other words, when you use the laws of the universe and you go with the flow of that, then it's just inspired action.
I do feel that, but not as much as I used to be to do it. So I guess probably I should keep soothing myself.
Well, yes, for sure. But this isn't something that you're going to change overnight. In other words,
really?
you can't. The train isn't going to stop going that way and start going that way all at once. It's hard on the contents of the train. It's like if you've been told, Esther left her bed unmade. Yesterday. She left her bed unmade. And she stood in the doorway of her bedroom and she thought, I've never done this before, or not in a really long time. And nobody's going to see it. So maybe it doesn't matter. And the reason we tell you this embarrassing story is because it's something that Esther learned to do. You make your bed every day. You make your bed. You make your bed. You just feel better if you make your bed. You make your bed. You make your bed. You don't not make your bed. You don't not make your bed. You don't go off and leave your bed unmade. You don't, because that's wrong. You don't leave your bed unmade. You don't leave your bed unmade. Well, so now here's the thing that we want you to sort out with us. Is making the bed right and leaving it unmade wrong? If Esther believes that making the bed is a good thing, isn't the path of least resistance for her to make her bed?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you get the rightness and wrongness out of things, but the thing that's a little tricky to sort out is, how did Esther come to believe that she should always make her bed? And we say, don't bog yourself down in trying to sort all of these things out. Be present. Esther stood there and said to herself, I'm not going to make my bed, and I'm not going to feel bad about not making my bed. My unmade bed is not going to be a condition that keeps me from alignment. Now, this sounds stupid to you. We know. This sounds like a silly comparison. But we want you to understand that there's not a right or wrong in anything. There's just alignment or not within you. And when we say to you, it's your job to make it all right for you right now, that sort of freaks you out in some ways, because you've been oriented, you've been trained by a society that never wanted you just to sort it out to soothe yourself. The society needs you to do it the way they need you to do it in order to please them. In other words, the housekeepers in this hotel are not standing in the doorways and thinking, make the bed or not make the bed. Make the bed or not make the bed. In other words, they're playing in a game. They're living by rules. They better make the beds. They have no choice but to make the beds if they're going to live in this game that they're living in. So what we're saying to you is that we understand how it is sometimes a little tricky to sort out the behavior.
Yeah, I don't know what am I going to do now.
Rather than trying so hard to sort out behavior, just for a little while, sort out feelings.
feeling.
And say to yourself, Abraham said, when my dream was coming true, when I got the thing that I so much wanted and got to sit in the hot seat and have a conversation with Abraham. And Abraham, a collective consciousness of infinite intelligence, gave their undivided attention to me.
Yeah.
When that happened to me, Abraham said to me, the only thing that matters is that you find a way of soothing yourself. Because you've done the other work. You've done the sifting and the sorting. You've done the asking. You've done the asking, it's in the vortex, and it's all lined up. Now your work is simpler than you have been letting it be. Your work is to soothe yourself into a receptive mode. Now, whatever that means to you, we're not going to say this thought, think this thought, and don't think that thought. We're saying think the thoughts that feel the best that you can find. Just think the thought that feels the best that you can find. And as you think the thought that feels the best that you can find, that's good enough. And as you do that, you won't feel guilty. You'll feel soothed, you see. You never feel soothed and guilty at the same time. You never feel in alignment and guilty at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't beat up on yourself and be in alignment with the source within you who will never beat up on you. You can't think bad thoughts about yourself and be in alignment with the source within you who will never think bad thoughts about you.
Yeah.
You can never find your flaw and feel good because the source within you will never find your flaw. You are flawless as far as the source within you is concerned. You are flawless because you are unconditional. You are the one who is placing the conditions that's putting the flaws, that's putting something, a wedge between you and the source within you. Is that clear to you? You see how it works? So when we say you're not going to sort this out all at once, it's because all of you have layers of things that you've been thinking about and worrying about, and you've not been thinking wrong. We don't want you to think that we think that you've been thinking wrong. You just haven't been thinking kindly enough to yourself. It's just those kinds of things. And the reasons that most of you don't is because you've been living in a very comparative world where you've been comparing yourself with others, and there's nothing about that comparison that was ever meant to do anything other than inspire you to ideas that you could please yourself. The reason that you're here with so many others is not to make yourself more worthy than them, not to make yourself higher on the ladder or higher on the platform of metals than they are. It was never about that. It's just the variety that gives you ideas of the way you might want to mix up your paint in order to paint your palette. That's what the variety is all about. It's just for choices. It was never meant to be the way you compare yourself in terms of goodness or value against anyone else. You could not be more valuable. But somehow, in the contrast that is meant to serve you, to create the ideas, humans use it as a club to beat themselves up with. And so then you don't like you and you don't like them. You don't like them sometimes as they excel more than you do, and you don't like yourself as you don't excel as much as they do. So you put yourself in a position where you can't win when you're comparing in those ways. But if you would utilize the contrast in a way to just help you define what you want, and then you would use your emotions in order to acknowledge how you're doing in terms of staying in alignment with Source. There are apparently some things that we've left out of this story that we need to tell you right now in order for you to understand how this all works. So, you are an eternal consciousness. Eternal. We can't find a bigger, longer word than that. You are forever. You never cease to be. You are a consciousness that expands, and it is the expansion that gives you the most delight. It's how we all are. We are all that consciousness, and we cannot really accurately separate the consciousness that is us from the consciousness that is you. We are consciousness delighted in expansion. Humans call that consciousness God, but you mess it up when you do. So this consciousness stands in non-physical. You don't even know what that means. It means non-conditional. It means energy, not translatable, all of it. You stand in this non-physical consciousness, and you decide to focus yourself into an environment that is more tangible. And because you're so good at it, you become a physical fetus and then a physical human being. And you are born into an environment that is substantial, that has a platform that you can bounce off of. And you bring this pure consciousness that is you into this environment because you know those that have been living before you came into your body have created an environment that will stimulate you to new ideas. And you took delight in that. So you come into that body and you sift and sort, and without even consciously knowing you're doing it, because your human brain and your human personality has not matured to the place that you're really making big comparisons with lots of momentum. You're just living in this environment of well-being, but you are perceiving and you are coming to your own conclusions, and you are launching vibrational rockets of desire, and you are expanding. So the consciousness that was you before you came into this body is expanding now that you are in this body, and because you are in this body. So now, let's go back over to that consciousness that is expanding because you are in this body and because you are launching these rockets. You have become so much more as consciousness since you've been in this body. And that source that is you feels the fullness of what you have become and revels in it constantly, delights in it continuously, basks in the perfection that is you. Feel that just for a minute. That's what worthy feels like if you can find it. Basks in the perfection that is you. And it is that feeling, it's that pulsing vibration that you are always reaching for. That's what we want you to soothe yourself to. We want you to soothe yourself to, because when you accomplish that, being here, oh, you'll all get there when you croak. Off you'll go, and there you'll be, happy for all that you've become. But we don't think you should have to croak in order to experience here at this pointed leading edge the fullness of all that you've become, you see. So then we want to ask you, why do you define yourself through lackful terms when you've become all of this? Well, it's because you've trained yourself to look through physical eyes. We're wanting to train you to feel through vibrational senses. We want you to feel your way to it, not think your way to it. Find the feeling and then let the thoughts follow. That's what that soothing is. And so you say, how do I do it?
Yeah.
You do it by saying, it's all right. I'm just fine. All is well. They're there. Everything's all right. Perfect place. Perfect time. This is who I am. I was born to be here. I'm on my path. This is the trajectory of who I am. I'm pure positive energy. Everything's just right. I could not be doing it better. I'm following inspiration. I'm getting better at that all the time. Pure positive energy surrounds me. I am adored. This environment that surrounds me inspires me to more. I'm constantly achieving it. I never get it done. I can't get it wrong. All is really well with me. I feel good so much of the time. Pure positive energy surrounds me. All is well. It's all right. It's all right. Everything's all right. I'm doing just fine. I'm doing really good. Source adores me. I feel the inspiration all the time. Ideas are flowing. I receive the ideas. I get inspiration. Sometimes I don't feel like doing something. Yeah. That's inspiration too. Sometimes I want rest. That's inspiration too. Sometimes there's more resistance than I can overcome. That's all right. It will return. There's an ebb and flow in all of this. Sometimes I have more resistance. I know it. I feel it. Sometimes I have less resistance. I know it. I feel it. Everything's working out just fine. I've put it in the vortex. It is inevitable. My well-being is assured. I'm supposed to be having fun here. Life is supposed to be fun. My inner being is delighting in the life that I've carved out. It's time for me to delight in the life that I've carved out. In other words, it's just talking to yourself like that. No specific terms, just general terms. We want to ask all of you, do you create your own reality?
Yes.
Is this a vibrational universe?
Yes.
Are you singular here in your physical body? Are you more?
Yes.
Are your emotions an indication of the blend of the perspectives of you? That's the thing that you got to get your head around. You have a source energy perspective that you've got to blend with if you are to be happy. Oh, we can't say it more clear. You have a source energy perspective of everything, and especially a perspective of you that you have got to, in your now, blend with if you are to be happy.
Yeah.
You cannot look at yourself in bogus ways and be happy. You cannot argue for your limitations and be happy.
Yeah.
You cannot beat upon yourself about what you should have done or even what you should be doing right now and be happy.
Yeah.
You've got to make peace with yourself. You've got to make it all right where you are. It has to be all right that you don't make your bed, and it has to be all right that you lay there all day if you feel like it. It has to be all right. You have to stop letting other humans who need you to do conditional things so that they can be conditionally happy guide you away from what true love is, you see.
Yes.
And as you get there more often, you'll stay there more. And then those moments when you're not there will just be the freaky moments that they are, and you'll just laugh about it. You'll find yourself laughing at things that you used to get mad at. They'll just be funny. They'll just be funny. You'll laugh at things that used to irritate you because your energy will just keep shifting and shifting and shifting. The source, your inner being, never takes eyes or attention from you. Now, that could make you feel a little on the spot. In other words, everything that we are is happening right here in this moment where you are. Right here in this moment where you are. And so, we want you to sort of get used to the importance that you are. In other words, along with, we want you to, in other words, through what you are, we're perceiving life. And you can't mess it up for us. But the fact that we're perceiving so strongly through you, if you're not on our wavelengths, you won't feel good. Did we get there for you? If we would turn our attention away from you, you could feel any way you want about anything. You could be as hard on yourself as you want, and you'd never feel bad because there wouldn't be any comparative experience. But because Source is so clearly, powerfully, constantly focused on your well-being and who you are, when you don't let yourself receive that, you don't feel good. And that's what you've been trying to say to us since you sat in that chair. Every
Yes.
word that you said, that's what you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what do? You say? Chill out. Chill out. Be easier. Have more fun. Try to feel about yourself like we do. When you don't get out of bed, we don't care. We don't care. We're not saying, oh, she didn't get out of bed again. She didn't get out of bed again. We had such high hopes for her. We had such high hopes for her, and there she is, not living up to her potential. How much potential can she possibly live up to if she doesn't get out of bed?
That's exactly what is going on in my mind. Like, why I didn't get up.
But you
Oh my
see,
God,
that's your
genius.
translation. That's your translation. And
Yeah.
you couldn't feel that way if we were not there loving you anyway. In other words, that's that contrast that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like letting yourself off the hook?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like letting everybody else off the hook?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like just looking for love in the right places for a
Yeah.
while?
Yeah.
Not being so conditional in everything that you're doing? And
Yeah.
just...
Yeah.
You came for fun. You came for when you're really good at something, and you are, wouldn't you want to be born in an environment where you could be really good at it? Look at the resources that surround you. Don't you want to let them formulate to please you? And that's what happened to Esther with this castle.
Yeah.
That's what happened. She's standing in the middle of it, looking at its magnificence, and saying to herself, "Whew, I must have done something right." Ooh. She can feel, she's having deja vu all day, every day, as she realizes how many things have been in her vortex that are culminating in this physical manifestation. So now, be careful as we present this to you, because because Esther wasn't looking. It found her. It found her. The path found her. That's a key for you. When you're looking so hard to get on your path, you're putting up resistance that keeps you from finding it. If you can take this worthiness that we accomplished here together, you were feeling it, you were feeling it. And you can accept that that's your point of attraction, and that your path is coming to you, and that your singular work is to keep from putting the resistance up, which means whenever you feel a little resistance going up, soothe it, soothe it, soothe it as best you can. If thoughts come to you like I should be doing different, say right out loud to yourself, I'm doing just fine. If someone else says you should be different than you are, say right out loud, I'm doing just fine. I'm on my path. My path is coming to me. Everything's unfolding perfectly for me. You see, these things we know about you. We know the contrast that you've been sifting, and we know what you put in your vortex, but even more than that, we know who you were coming in. We also know the tendencies you have of setting up resistance for yourself. And every word that we've been speaking from the moment that Esther would allow us to speak has been to help you release or reduce the resistance that is the only thing that is keeping you from the moment in time that feels the way the moment in time is supposed to feel to you, the moment in time, the way the moment in time does feel to the source within you. We've got an opinion about how you're supposed to feel, and we feel that way. It's time for you to feel your way to the way we feel about the things you're doing in every moment. You get that?
Yeah.
So when you're talking to your kids, we're talking to your kids. We feel love for your children. We feel love for you as you're interacting with your children. The question is, are you conveying the love that we feel for your children, or are you out of whack in some way? You can tell by the way you feel. When you're shouting at your children, don't you know I love you? You're not loving them. You're crossways of that. We think you have it. Do you think you have it? You think you have it?
I will figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It just gets clearer and clearer, doesn't it?
Yeah. Before I thought, I don't know, actually, I just I have like so many words, and suddenly just when I see you, I just forgot all of the words that I want to say when I feel sad. I don't know why. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm so good at it. I just feel like I have so many questions in my heart that I have no one to ask. And I just imagine one day I will ask you. But maybe, like you said, I couldn't get all of the answers in one day.
Here's the thing. When you ask, we're not talking about you being here with Esther. When you ask, we will hear you and we will answer. When you ask, we will hear you and we will answer. So, even Esther doesn't hear us sometimes. She can't always hear us. She's got to be in this place. She has to be in a receptive mode in order to hear us. She can't be focused on something gone wrong and hear us, you see.
That's true.
She has to, so it's like, how do you get rid of doubt before it happens? Yeah. And how do you get so you can hear Abraham? Well, you bask.
Yes.
You bask and you meditate, or you bring yourself into a place of receptivity. You get to that place and then. So this is the thing about asking. The vibrational characteristics, the vibrational frequency, for lack of a better word in Esther's vocabulary, of a question is different than the frequency of the answer.
That's true.
Because the question has all the unresolved issues in it. It has the doubt in it. It has the, I don't know what to do in it. It's got resistance in it.
That's true.
So when you ask a question, that's not the time that you're going to receive the answer. It's like pushing your button on your XM radio to the question mode, and then you have to push the button to the answer mode to hear the answer.
That's true.
This is the question mode, this is the answer mode.
Yes.
And they're not the same vibrational frequency.
Yes.
And they usually don't happen in the same moment, because something that formulated the question within you is active, so you've got that going on.
Yeah.
And that active question is resistance to the answer.
Yeah.
The active problem is resistance to the solution.
Yeah.
So you gotta then chill out. Think about something else that you don't feel resistance about. So you just go bipping along, not thinking about the unanswered question, just feeling happy about something, and then the answer comes. Because you're in a mode that allows you to receive the answer. But because you were deliberate about asking the question, when the answer comes, you'll make the correlation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yes.
I remember when I was at 17 years old, I was asking myself, I was like really asking questions. I really, really want to know the truth. What is the truth behind all of those things around me? Because though I work like the way that my parents and the society teaches me, but it doesn't work out very well, and I got so much pain. And later, I got the answer, and I just feel so good. I got the truth, you know, and it feels so good, and nothing is more satisfying than that.
So that answers your question, doesn't it, about why it happened that way then and why it's happening this way now. You just isolated the factors that made the difference. You just answered for yourself. The last thing you said answered the question, which was the first thing you said to us.
And it was so funny. I actually prepared a gift for you today. It's a scarf from China that I picked up by myself. It was so funny, like, and then you picked me. It was like so, oh my gosh. It was such a dream come true. It was such a sensation that nothing feels better than this.
New words. A dream come true, meaning a vibration that once I found non-resistance was realized by me. And so dream come true sounds rare.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be rare.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go through life, dream come true, 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 dream come true.
Yeah.
Dream come true, dream come true, dream come true. And pretty soon people are going to say, stop it. You don't have to say dream comes true. Every time you take a breath of air, a dream came true. We're not kidding. The sun came up, another dream came true.
Your true love. Words can't describe how.
Don't need words.
How I feel. I love you. Thank you.
Don't
so
need
much.
words. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.